Yesterday, Miguel Indurain highlighted the dangers of the Tour de France and the reason why no leader, however dominant, predicts his impending victory in Paris. Indurain survived this frightening moment on the descent of Mont Ventoux. Overall, though, he still has a comfortable margin, but the next 5 riders have every reason to fight out the battle for second place. Now it's on to the Alps as the field, shrinking every day, leaves Valreas, destination Alpe d'Huez. On the way, 2 stepping stones. The first, a new climb to the event, the Col de Menet, rising to 1,402 meters after 122 kilometers covered. Then, with the legs nicely warmed up, it's down and up again, this time onto the tough climb of the Col d'Ornon at 1,371 meters after 195 kilometers covered. Back down to the valley below and into the village of Bourg-Grazon. The final ascent start of Alpe d'Huez, taking the riders to its finishing line at 1,860 meters. And the man who conquers the Alpe first today will have the undoubted honor of stepping out here and saluting a very knowledgeable public indeed. He'll step up here onto the winner's podium and salute a crowd who's turned this into a shrine since Fausto Coppi first triumphed here in 1952. Now, Miguel Indurain has dominated this year's Tour de France ever since he took the yellow jersey in the time trial. So last night we asked him, was there still anything he feared in this year's race?
La montaña, ¿no? La montaña Alpe d'Huez, Val Thorens, Clus. Son 3 etapas de Alpes muy duras. Si hace el calor que está haciendo ahora, va a ser etapas muy duras, muy difíciles. Habrá que ver las fuerzas cómo están. Es lo peor de esta última semana.
Well, if Miguel's worried, pity the rest on this tough day in the Alps. One rider I don't expect to see too much of today is Eros Poli after that long breakaway yesterday. But what about the weather, Paul?
Well, after all the heat, Phil, the day is going to be very cloudy and temperatures dropping on the way up the Alp. It could be also raining when the riders get to the top and as cold as 15 degrees Celsius.
And down below, a breakaway that formed after only 14 kilometers today. There were 14 riders then. They've led throughout the day. The maximum lead has been in excess of 12 minutes. And we're now approaching the first part of Alpe d'Huez. The last time check we got, the breakaway was losing ground, but it's still in excess of 7 minutes. Now, there's only 12 of them left, and let me give you the names straight away in this leading breakaway. As we watch here, one of the 2 Kelme riders ask for a drink. And this rider is Camargo, the Colombian, who launched a tremendous attack on the Col d'Ornon, which shook out 2 of the riders in the breakaway, Thierry Gouvenou and Giorgio Furlan. They're not here, so we're down to 12. Latest time checks coming up, 8:44 they're saying. Charlie Motte has gone clear on the top of d'Ornon. He's been joined by Ralph Aldag and also by one of the riders. There's 3 of them chasing that. And then we go back about another half a minute to the field. So the breakaway members are Roberto Conti, Perini of the ZG team, Roberto Elli of the GB team, Buena Hera from Kelme, Yogi Muller of Mapai, Roberto Torres of Festina, Bruno Kengialta from the GVIS team, Camargo we've just seen also from the Kelme team, Santa Ramita from ZG, Udo Boltz from the Telecom team, and Ronan Pensek of the Novamai team. This is the scene now, Paul, as we start the climb. Now, the big question we're all asking, can they survive to the top? But look how they spread eagle the field already.
This is the climb up to the first corner of the Alpe d'Huez. Then they'll see the sign 21 corners to go. That's the scary thing about this mountain. You get a time check or a corner check all the way down, counting up to the top here in the Alpe d'Huez. And it looks as if we've already got an explosion in this group that's been together since the early kilometers of today's stage. And the 2 men setting the pace at the front are in fact Roberto Conti and Alberto Elli.
As we see on the inside, we've got Elli setting the pace. Conti, well, Paul Sherwin has a feeling that Conti might be the man to watch out for in the pink jersey to the right here. He is a well-proven climber and a very good rider in previous Tours de France.
Well, those 2 riders were excellent yesterday. They were in fact able to finish with Miguel Indurain. But one rider who hasn't done a great deal of work today, in fact, is this number 96, the Festina rider, who is Roberto Torres. He was at the front of the race a couple of times through the last few mountain stages, and he hasn't contributed at all to the work of today's breakaway because he's been playing the soldier for the Festina squad.
Ludo Bolt, number 134, has certainly taken, and he's actually going to try and liven this up a little bit because he's gone. Bolt has put in the first attack on the first corner here. It's very steep at this stage, Alpe d'Huez, and it goes on for a few corners at a great gradient of about 1 in 9 before it shallows out a little bit. And that's a very good acceleration by Bolt, and he's going again, and Conti's quick to realise it too, and Torres goes on the far side. So Torres, the pure climber, has issued an acceleration that the others must now follow.
Well, that was a great move by Torres, and he's the man, as I said, who's not put a great deal of work in, but in fact it is Roberto Conti who's made the counter. They were attacking on the left and the right-hand side of the road, and Conti, who I thought for quite some time was going to be one of the strongmen of the break today, has gone clear.
Well, it's a delight to watch a pure climber in action, and Conti is a great climber, and he's now trying to hurt the others by lifting the pace and the tempo that little bit. And he won't ease up until he feels he has a workable gap, and maybe some will join him, maybe none will join him. He's made the attack right at the base of Alpe d'Huez. Now there's a sign of confidence.
Well, that is a sign of confidence, because it's a 13-kilometre climb, which is nearly 7 miles to the top of this mountain here, and there are a lot more corners to go, and it's very tough at the bottom part of the climb. The straights are quite long and very steep, and then as you get halfway up, you can actually put your gearing up a little bit because the mountain levels out a little bit before, with about 3 or 4 kilometres to go, you go round a corner and you can see the Alpe d'Huez right at the top of the skyline. But a brave move by Conti at the moment.
Well, it's unlikely that Conti will damage the lead of Miguel Indurain, but you know, he's starting this climb at the lead of 9 minutes over the majority of riders ahead of him and behind Miguel. And if he hangs on to a good advantage by the top, then he could find himself tonight in the top 3 positions overall. Now surely that will cause a reaction from the main field when word gets back. You get some idea here of the size, of the steepness rather, of the slope of Alpe d'Huez. Paul Sherwin alongside me can, well, his legs are probably aching now. He's climbed this climb 7 times in his period of riding the Tour de France. And Paul, I'm sure you remember the day in the 1970s, late 1970s, early 1980s it was, when we actually climbed this mountain 2 days in succession.
Well, that was a horrendous experience. We raced up it the one day, and then the following day we were taken down to the bottom by car, did a 70-mile loop, and the finish was back up to the top of the Alpe d'Huez again. And to cap that all, the next day was a rest day, and part of our warm-up was in fact to go down the Alpe d'Huez and ride up it again. But that was a pretty horrendous year to come up this mountain so many times.
So as we race into Bourg-Gazon, it looks like Stephen Hodge of the Festina team, the workhorse now, trying to get his men to the foot of the climb when he'll drop away from the bunch. But his thought now is to stop that man, Roberto Conti, getting too much time. Here he is, because he would damage the Festina positions of Richard Virenque and indeed Luc Leblanc. So Stephen Hodge playing the team man now to try and launch his men at the climb. Here's Conti. He's opened the gap, Paul, and now he's got to settle in and suffer a bit more to hold it.
Just got one time check of Roberto Conti over the main pack at the moment. He's got 8 minutes and 50 seconds lead, so if he can just keep going and not crack as he gets towards the summit of this mountain, he's going to walk away with a great advantage today, and he will move up definitely into the top 10 in the overall standings, and it may well be that it'll be 5th or 6th by the end of today. And strangely enough, the Festina squad, although we can see them at the bottom of the climb trying to speed it up a little bit, they should have been a lot more responsible in chasing down this 14-man breakaway earlier on if they were worried about the overall position of riders like Richard Virenque, Luc Leblanc and Pascalino.
So there is a lovely view of Alpe d'Huez. We have an Italian on the tack, Roberto Conti. He's just left the other 11 riders behind. The gap overall is about 9 minutes to Indurain. At the moment, Indurain is safe, but he better watch out. We'll take a break.
Hello again. So the Tour is back on the Alpe, and more importantly, the Alpe is back in the Tour's good books, because although this place is considered a virtual fixture of the race, last year it was a fixture that got cancelled. The problem seems to have been a bit of overbooking. The crowds on Alpe d'Huez always far outnumber the available rooms, and even with the tented city that springs up every year, 200,000 into 12 hotels won't go. So when the mountain wouldn't move on how much accommodation it was offering the Tour as opposed to the tourists, the organisers booked in elsewhere for only the 2nd time since 1976. Needless to say, the Alps happy to have them back.
The Tour is very important for us. it helps us to be known everywhere in the whole world, not only in France, not only in Europe, but also everywhere.
And once again, they're here from everywhere. A resort which was deserted this time last year, full of Wands, Dirks and Harrys, all of them spending francs. And with weak coffee at £2 a cup, they're spending plenty of them. So slipping into holiday 94 mode to sum up, I'd have to say it's great to see the Alp back, but if you're planning a trip here next year, put a packed lunch in the pannier. All right, back to the race on the road now, as the riders head here to the top.
Well, thanks, Gary, and Conti is now going clear of what was a break of 14, and in fact, they've shattered them all over the mountains. The main field here have yet to make a move, and Indurain quite happy to watch things happen in front of him. There is the man in the lead, and he has a lead of 40 seconds now over the nearest rider to him. And I think Bruno Kengialta is there too. It's Pensek who is second on the road now, 40 seconds behind Roberto Conti. As we go back some minutes down the slope to see Gerard Rouet pacing Miguel Indurain. And today he seems to be taking it easy, because tomorrow, of course, is another severe day in the Alps. We go to Val Thorens, and that is a very, very hard day indeed. And it may be that some of the riders don't want to push themselves on Alpe d'Huez. Psychologically, this is the tough mountain. I'm not too sure what's going on in the bunch there, but I think one or two of the riders might well have been arguing, and while they were, Pantani decided to wave goodbye again. This man is incredible. He's launched another attack.
Well, one of the superb climbers that we've spoken about him so many times is lying in 6th place overall at the moment, and I'm sure he would love today have been fighting out for the stage victory at the top of the Alpe d'Huez, because this really is a shrine, this mountain, for the climbers of international cycling. But what he's trying to do at the moment is to get rid of the riders in front of him in the overall standings. He wants to move across his own teammate Pulnikov. In fact, the man to react is Richard Viron, the leader of the King of the Mountains classification at the moment. He is a little bit worried, I think, by Pantani, because there are so many points still available in that competition, and he has to match this man who is an exceptional climber.
Well, Richard, I think, would like somebody to come and give him a hand here. He didn't really want to go on the attack at this stage of the climb, I'm sure of that. He's a reluctant attacker at this point, but he's got to go because Pantani challenges him in the King of the Mountains competition, and he wants to limit the Italians' gains. As a result of that, just look how that big field, Paul, has split up on the climb. There's a little group left now.
Well, the only way to go with a rider like Marco Pantani, if you're a climber, is actually be on his wheel at the time when he attacks. There's no way, I don't think, that Richard Viron can come back up to Marco Pantani, because this man, Pantani, is one of the most incredible climbers I've seen in the last few years. Going back, I think the rider before that who impressed me the most in the mountains was probably Luis Herrera, the Colombian climber, who used to go up these mountains at something like 5 kilometers an hour faster than anybody else. And you see Pantani is in fact disappearing in the distance, and this is a little bit of a wasted effort, I think, now for Richard Viron.
But as we watch the leader come up here, it's amazing to see that Miguel Indurain has not countered the move of second overall, Richard Viron. That's how confident Indurain feels. He's won this tour. He has a nice margin of 7 minutes and 56 seconds, but you really don't let your second man overall out of sight unless you are feeling extremely confident. And of course, there is still a mountain time trial to come before this race is over at the weekend. There's Richard Virenque, and he's making the climb, trying to get on terms with Pantani. And we've still got a number of riders in between. These riders are a long way behind that breakaway, don't forget, which is shattered now all over Alpe d'Huez and riding in dribs and drabs up the mountain. Sharp hairpin bend here, and this is what was the main peloton at the start of the climb. I make it about 17, 18 riders left in contention there as they now climb towards the summit. We've now gone back up to the leader, and it looks as though, in fact, now Roberto Conti is in the town of Huez, which is around about 2.5 miles, 3 miles from the summit.
Well, if any part of this climb could be regarded as easy, that was the part that it is, because it does level off a little bit in the town there, and he'll get a chance to recuperate a little bit before he then takes 1 or 2 corners and looks up to the skies and sees the town of the Alpe d'Huez right up and above him.
So the face of Rouet, the relaxed features of Indurain, and the struggle of Zula on the right here in pink. They all contrast their different efforts. Indurain happy with the situation. I don't think he's going to turn a pedal in anger today unless he's forced to. And so it's under the 4 kilometer now for the leader on the course, Roberto Conti. He made his attack soon after Alpe d'Huez began, and it looks like he could be his stage now. Pantani, although chasing from the Indurain group, is still a long way behind him on the day. He's given him, I think, again, too much head start over the mountains. The rider who is in fact second on the road, we haven't seen too much of him, is the Colombian Hernan Buenahora, and he's riding his first Tour de France and looking set now to be the only man left who can challenge Conti for the finish. The pace being set here by the faithful little Spaniard Ramon González Arrieta in favour of Indurain. Indurain seems to be very content to just ride this mountain today, and you know, I find that a little bit strange. Maybe he is under pressure, who knows, because he's allowed Richard Virenque to go clear, and Virenque is gaining time on Indurain, the first man to do so, I think, since he took over his yellow jersey in the time trial.
Well, Miguel Indurain did say before the start of this week that there was only one thing really scared him as we came into the final week of the Tour de France, and that was the mountains, and that's where we are right at the moment, in the middle of the mountains, and there are still 3 alpine stages to go before we get any chance of him having a safe ride up to Paris.
This is Pantani, and you can see ahead yet another one of that breakaway, originally of 14, 12 when we started the climb of Alpe d'Huez, and now coming back to him. It's been shattered all over the lacettes of this mountain today, and Pantani just keeps his rhythm up out of the saddle, then sits down and keeps the revs high, and another one going back. It looks like Thierry Marie, in fact, we're about to pass.
Thierry Marie did a great ride today, being in that group of 14 riders, and it's quite strange to see him so far to the front of the race in the mountains, but the fact that he managed to get into that early breakaway gave him a good start at the bottom of the Alpe d'Huez.
So with the leader now, 3 kilometres left to go to the finish. The Italian flags are flying now. Message is spread to the summit of Alpe d'Huez that an Italian is leading the way up. Only a third different Italian in the history of the race on Alpe d'Huez. The first was Fausto Coppi, the second was Gianni Bugno, and now we've got Roberto Conti, and another Italian going under the 5 kilometre banner. So 2 kilometres separates Pantani from Conti, and there are still a handful of riders in between, dodging the way among the crowd on the way up to the summit. Still González Arrieta here, pacing his man Indurain, whose face tells us nothing, but clearly not in the mood to counter the attack by Richard Virenque. Virenque is in front of him, but we don't know by how much. But here is the supple climbing style of Marco Pantani, and he's climbing so rapidly. There's another member of the break now. He's just going through them one after another, but the one he wants has got the pink lamprey jersey on. Conti, I don't think you'll see him until they shake hands at the finishing line, because he's just that too far ahead. 2 kilometres ahead of him still on the open road to the summit, and the crowd watching a great showdown here, while Miguel Indurain in the stalls in the back row is watching it all happen without turning a pedal in anger.
I'm pretty sure at the end of this year's Tour de France, the stock prices for Marco Pantani are going to go soaring through the roof, because this man, not only was he a revelation of the Tour of Italy, but he's also been a superb rider in the Tour de France this year. And Ronan Penzic cannot believe the speed with which Marco Pantani has gone by him. He realises that this man started the climb 8 minutes behind him, and he's just totally shocked, I think.
Oh, superb.
Look at this. As soon as Indurain goes to the front, puts the acceleration on, everybody is in his wake, and there you see Armand de las Cuevas has dropped off the back there, fighting to stay in contention. Pulnikov a little bit further down in 4th place there, hanging on as well.
Well, Luc Leblanc is trying to get a little bit better on de las Cuevas. Luc Leblanc only needs 33 seconds on this rider here, de las Cuevas, and they'll swap positions tonight, and Luc Leblanc will move up to 3rd. Leblanc gritting his teeth and hoping he can hang on, and so too de las Cuevas. He's gone. Now we go back up here. The rider second from the back here. In fact, he's gone in front of Zula in pink. That is Luc Leblanc. He is looking for 33 seconds tonight to take 3rd place off de las Cuevas. And it looks to me as though Zula is beginning to crack now, as he watched the other 3 fly away behind that man who seems to have something special in his engine. So as we go back towards the finishing line now, an Italian is going to celebrate the victory here on Alpe d'Huez. The grimace has become a smile as a Roberto Conti, and we think it's the first ever bike race he's ever won as a pro, and it might well be, because he's going to enjoy this. My goodness me, it's his 9th year as a professional. No signs of pain on his face now. It's been a brilliant climb of Alpe d'Huez for him. He's led from the bottom. The professional look over the shoulder to make sure they're not creeping up there, not they're miles behind. 6 hours, 6 minutes, and Roberto Conti keeps the Italian record here. He's only the third Italian to win on the top of Alpe d'Huez, and he's going to cherish this memory for the rest of his life.
But Miguel Indurain doing a great job here. Once again, once it gets near to the summit, 3 kilometers to go for him. He's just putting the pressure on, and in fact, Buenahora has held on to second place.
And he comes home. The Colombian has given the Colombian television here something to shout about today as he swings into the finishing area. And he is in his first Tour de France. He wanted to win this one. He put in some great attacks early on, but he was outwitted by that superb attack by Conti. He's going to regret that now, but at least he'll finish second on Alpe d'Huez. The Kelme squad have had a great Tour de France. They had that wonderful win with Cabello down on the stage from Dover to Brighton when the race went through Britain. And now they're having another second place here. This is their second place on the stage as well. And he takes that 2 minutes and 1 second behind Roberto Conti. And there's the happy man, Roberto Conti, as he comes home and salutes the crowd high above Alpe d'Huez here. The most cherished victory, certainly for him, and the one that every rider wants to get in the Tour de France. And finishing more than 5 minutes behind, but what a marvellous climb. And Marco Pantani crosses the line in 8th place. And he gained a little bit of time and a few more mountain points over Richard Virenque, who will remain the leader in the King of the Mountains. But Virenque gaining a few seconds today over Miguel Indurain, although he'll probably remain more than 7 minutes behind. The man who also lost time was Armand de las Cuevas, because Luc Leblanc finished with Indurain, and de las Cuevas lost time and will slip a place overall. A first ever victory anywhere in the world for Roberto Conti. He chooses Alpe d'Huez to do it. He finishes 2 minutes 2 seconds ahead of the Colombian Hernan Buenahora. In third place, Udo Bolz of Germany. And a very happy Italian on the winner's podium tonight. It's taken 9 years to get a road race victory, and he's done it here. Of the green jersey competition, Abdou Japarov lives on to fight another day. He lost only 19 minutes and 39 seconds today. The English rider Sean Yates, 28 minutes 53 seconds back. And yesterday's hero Eros Poli, he finished today 34 minutes and 18 seconds down, but he finished. Others like Lordolino Cubino, they gave up. He finished in the ambulance. He wasn't injured, by the way. Others arrived inside the broom wagon as well, including Oliveiro Rincon. Overall, there was a little bit of a change. Richard Virenque ate just a fraction into the lead of Miguel Indurain. He's now only 7 minutes 21 seconds back. Luc Leblanc goes up to third, Armand de las Cuevas down to fourth, Pantani into fifth, and Roberto Conti now up to sixth. And another appearance on the podium for Miguel Indurain, his 9th yellow jersey of the Tour so far. So at the end of this first day in the Alps, the general classification has begun to shuffle just a little bit. Now, I wonder if Miguel Indurain took it easy today because of the hard day to come tomorrow. We stay in the Alps and we finish again on a mountain top, this time at Val Thorens. And I wonder too if Marco Pantani will ever get the stage win he so richly deserves in this year's Tour de France. We might know tomorrow. Until then, at 8:30, goodbye.